Have you ever watched a post-credit scene that looked so simple that most people completely missed what it was actually trying to say? Ever since the world premiere of Spider-Man Brand New Day, early reactions have been pouring in from critics and fans lucky enough to attend the first screenings. And if those reactions are even close to accurate, we might be looking at one of the strongest Spider-Man movies ever made. Not just another fun adventure with Tom Holland's Peter Parker, but a movie that finally pushes Spider-Man back into the center of the Marvel Cinematic Universe after No Way Home completely reset his life. But strangely enough, the biggest conversation isn't about the movie itself. It's about a single post-credit scene that somehow leaked before the film officially hit theaters. For some fans, that leak instantly became a disappointment. Others called it confusing. Some even went as far as saying Marvel had completely dropped the ball. But here's the interesting part. Almost every complaint comes from looking at the scene in isolation. Because once you place it inside the larger MCU timeline, and more importantly, once you connect it to Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars story, it transforms from one of the most confusing post-credit scenes Marvel has ever made into one of the most important setups for the future of the multiverse saga. And if that's true, then this scene isn't teasing the next Spider-Man movie at all. It may actually be revealing something that happens after Avengers Doomsday, which completely changes how we're supposed to watch it. Before we dive deeper, this is your spoiler warning. If you've managed to avoid every leak surrounding Spider-Man Brand New Day and want to experience everything completely fresh inside the theater, this is the perfect time to stop watching. But if you're curious about what this mysterious ending actually means, why so many people are misunderstanding it, and how it could quietly spoil the ending of Avengers Doomsday, then let's break it all down. Because what happens in these final moments is surprisingly minimal on the surface. There's no massive cameo, no Doctor Doom speech, no appearance from the Fantastic Four, no giant multiversal explosion. Instead, Marvel chooses something incredibly subtle. The movie ends, the credits roll, and eventually we're shown a device that longtime fans will immediately recognize. It's Ned's homemade Spidey tracker. Not some futuristic Stark satellite. Not an advanced SHIELD computer, just a simple tracker presented with an intentionally retro video game aesthetic. At first, it almost feels playful. Like Marvel is ending the film with a nostalgic callback between Peter and his oldest friend. But then the screen suddenly changes. A single red dot appears somewhere inside New York City. It seems ordinary, nothing unusual, until the display flashes two words that instantly change everything. Location unknown. Normally, that message wouldn't mean much. Technology loses signals all the time. GPS trackers fail. Satellites disconnect. If this were any ordinary movie, you'd probably assume the device simply couldn't locate Peter anymore. But Marvel doesn't stop there. Instead, the camera begins doing something incredibly deliberate. It slowly pulls away from New York, then farther away from the entire planet. Earth shrinks smaller and smaller until we're completely out in space. And that's when the real surprise appears. The exact same red dot, the one that was supposedly inside New York, is still visible. Except it isn't on Earth anymore. It's floating somewhere far away in the darkness of space. Not orbiting the planet, not traveling toward another world. Just existing in the middle of nowhere. That's the entire scene. No dialogue, no explanation, no final reveal. Just a lonely red dot suspended in the emptiness of space. And for many viewers, that was exactly the problem. They walked away asking the same question. That's it? After all the anticipation surrounding Brand New Day, many expected something explosive. Maybe the Venom symbiote finally attaching itself to Peter. Maybe Doctor Doom making his first direct appearance. Maybe a shocking crossover with the X-Men or the Fantastic Four. Instead, Marvel gave audiences what looked like a blinking GPS signal. It's easy to understand why some people immediately labeled it one of the weakest post-credit scenes in MCU history. But that reaction only makes sense if you're assuming Marvel wants you to interpret this scene literally. And that's where everything starts to fall apart. Because the MCU has quietly trained audiences over the years to expect post-credit scenes to function as trailers for the next movie. Nick Fury assembling the Avengers. Thanos smiling after collecting another Infinity Stone, Harry Styles appearing as Star Fox, Clea recruiting Doctor Strange. They're usually direct teases. This one isn't. It's symbolic. And symbolic storytelling always creates confusion at first because it asks viewers to connect ideas instead of simply recognizing faces. That's exactly what's happening here. Marvel isn't saying, here's your next villain. They're saying, here's the state of reality after events you haven't seen yet. That's a completely different type of storytelling. And once you realize that, the camera movement suddenly becomes far more important than the tracker itself. Because the tracker isn't really the point, the location is. To understand why, we have to leave the movie behind for a moment and look toward one of Marvel's biggest comic events ever written. Jonathan Hickman's 2015 Secret Wars. This isn't just another crossover comic with dozens of heroes punching each other. It's the conclusion of an enormous multiversal saga. Throughout Hickman's story, universes begin colliding through catastrophic events known as incursions. Every collision destroys another reality until eventually the entire multiverse reaches total collapse. One universe after another disappears. Entire histories are erased. Civilizations vanish forever. Eventually, nothing survives. Every version of reality that once existed, from alternate Earths to parallel timelines, simply ceases to exist. Except one. And that lone survivor isn't really a universe anymore. It's something completely different. A world stitched together from the broken remains of countless destroyed realities. A planet built from fragments of dead universes. A place where kingdoms from different timelines exist side by side. Heroes remember different histories. Villains rule territories stolen from worlds that no longer exist. That impossible creation becomes known as Battleworld. This is where Doctor Doom reaches the absolute peak of his power in the comics. After the multiverse collapses, Doom doesn't simply survive it. He reshapes what's left into a brand new reality under his own control. He's no longer trying to conquer Earth. There isn't an Earth left to conquer. Instead, he becomes the ruler of the only world that still exists. That's why Battleworld has always been such a fascinating concept. It isn't another planet hidden somewhere in space. It is the graveyard of the multiverse itself. Every location exists because something else had to die first. Every kingdom represents another destroyed timeline. Every survivor is living among the ruins of realities that can never return. And suddenly, Marvel's mysterious red dot starts making a lot more sense. Because if Peter Parker is no longer on Earth, maybe that's because Earth itself is gone. Now think carefully about the sequence again. The tracker begins by identifying Peter somewhere in New York. Then it loses him. Location unknown. Immediately afterward, the camera leaves Earth entirely, only to reveal Peter's signal floating somewhere in deep space. Marvel could have shown another planet if that was all they wanted to tease. They could have shown Latveria, they could have shown Battleworld directly, they could have shown Doom's throne. Instead, they deliberately avoid giving us any recognizable location at all. Why? Because revealing Battleworld visually would immediately spoil Avengers Doomsday. Instead, Marvel chooses abstraction over confirmation. They're communicating the idea without exposing the destination. That lonely red dot isn't just Peter Parker floating through space. It's Marvel quietly telling us that Peter has reached the place beyond the end of the MCU as we currently know it. If that's true, then this post-credit scene isn't happening after Brand New Day, it's happening after Avengers Doomsday. And that's an enormous distinction, because it means Marvel is playing with chronology in a way they rarely do. Instead of teasing the next movie, they're teasing the aftermath of a movie audiences haven't even watched yet. Once you accept that possibility, something else becomes impossible to ignore. The scene suddenly starts explaining why so many recent reports about Tom Holland's role in Avengers Doomsday have seemed inconsistent. For months, rumors claimed Holland had participated in additional filming during the movie's summer reshoots. Naturally, fans assumed Spider-Man would appear in at least a small role. After all, Peter Parker has become one of the MCU's biggest heroes. Leaving him out of a multiversal event would feel almost unthinkable. But production realities painted a different picture. At the exact same time, Holland was balancing Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey alongside the demanding production schedule for Spider-Man Brand New Day. Trying to coordinate another major Marvel shoot on top of those commitments would have been incredibly difficult. And from Marvel's perspective, there was another challenge entirely. Avengers Doomsday already has one of the largest casts in superhero movie history. Every additional character means less time to properly develop the story they're trying to tell. Sometimes the hardest creative decision isn't choosing who gets included. It's deciding who has to wait for the story where they'll matter most. The more you think about it, the more that decision actually starts to make sense. Spider-Man isn't just another hero who can show up for a quick action sequence, throw a few jokes around, and disappear before the final battle. Peter Parker has always been a character whose emotional journey carries just as much weight as the spectacle surrounding him. Ever since No Way Home, he's been living through the most isolated chapter of his entire life. Everyone who ever loved him has forgotten who he is. Aunt May is gone. MJ doesn't remember him. Ned has no idea that his best friend even exists. Peter sacrificed every personal connection he had to save the multiverse, and in return, he became completely invisible to the world he fought so hard to protect. That's not the kind of story you interrupt with a 5-minute cameo in an Avengers movie. That's the kind of story you let breathe until the moment when it can have the biggest emotional payoff. And if Marvel is truly saving Peter for Secret Wars**, then his absence from Doomsday isn't a weakness in the story. It's actually setting up something much larger. Because while the Avengers are trying to stop reality from collapsing, Peter may already be walking into the world that exists after that collapse has happened. That idea also explains why Marvel appears to have deliberately avoided introducing the symbiote in Brand New Day*. Despite years of speculation pointing in that direction, ever since the ending of Spider-Man No Way Home and the brief appearance of the Venom symbiote left behind in the MCU, fans have been waiting for the inevitable black suit storyline. The expectation only grew stronger after Tom Holland himself hinted during recent interviews that Peter would eventually encounter the symbiote. Then there was the comic history. In the original 1984 Secret Wars, Peter doesn't create the black suit on Earth. He discovers it on Battleworld. At first, he believes it's simply an advanced alien costume capable of repairing itself and changing shape. Only much later does he learn that it isn't a suit at all. It's a living organism that is quietly bonded with him. That story has become one of the defining moments in Spider-Man's entire history. Naturally, many fans assumed Marvel would recreate that setup here. When the post-credits scene ended without even a hint of black goo or an alien organism, disappointment spread almost immediately. But what if that disappointment comes from expecting the payoff too early? Marvel has shown incredible patience over the years when it comes to long-term storytelling. The Infinity Stones appeared years before Infinity War. Kang's variants were teased long before audiences understood their significance. Even Doctor Doom seems to be part of a plan that has been unfolding piece by piece across multiple projects. So perhaps Marvel isn't abandoning the symbiote storyline at all. Perhaps they're preserving the exact comic-accurate moment when Peter first encounters it, not on Earth, but on Battleworld itself. If that's the case, then introducing the black suit inside Secret Wars would actually make the transformation feel much more meaningful, because Peter wouldn't simply be wearing a different costume. He would be changing during the darkest point of the multiverse saga, when reality itself has already fallen apart. And if Battleworld truly becomes the setting for Secret Wars*, then the possibilities for Spider-Man expand far beyond a costume upgrade. Think about Peter's current emotional state. He has nobody. The people he loves have forgotten him. He's carrying the burden of memories that no one else shares. Now imagine placing that version of Peter onto a planet where survivors from destroyed universes are forced to coexist. Suddenly, Peter isn't the only person who's lost everything. He would be surrounded by heroes who watched entire realities disappear. Variants who remember worlds that no longer exist. Families separated by multiversal collapse. Characters who can never go home because home itself has been erased. For the first time since No Way Home, Peter would meet people who actually understand what loss on that scale feels like. That's fertile ground for storytelling. It turns Spider-Man from the lonely neighborhood hero back into one of the emotional anchors of the MCU. Instead of fighting to protect one city, he would be fighting alongside the last survivors of existence itself. And because Peter has always represented hope in impossible situations, Battleworld may be exactly where Marvel wants him to shine. There's another detail hidden inside the leaked scene that becomes even more fascinating once you stop thinking about geography and start thinking about time. Most fans instinctively assumed the tracker was trying to tell us where Peter is. But what if it's actually telling us when he is? Marvel has played with non-linear timelines before. We've seen movies that begin after their own endings, Disney Plus series that jump across centuries, and stories like Loki that exist almost entirely outside conventional time. Battleworld itself isn't simply another place on a cosmic map. In many versions of the comics, it represents a reality assembled after everything else has ended. From the perspective of Earth 616, Battleworld is almost like the future that shouldn't exist. So when Ned's tracker flashes "location unknown," it may not be failing because Peter is too far away. It may be failing because the Earth it was designed to track no longer exists in the same reality. The technology hasn't broken. Reality has. That subtle distinction makes the scene dramatically more powerful because Marvel never needs to explain any of it. A simple error message communicates the collapse of an entire universe. This also answers one of the biggest criticisms people have had ever since Avengers Endgame. After Thanos, how do you create stakes that feel even bigger? You can't simply destroy another city. You can't just introduce another powerful villain with a larger army. Bigger explosions don't automatically create bigger emotions. Marvel understands that. That's why the multiverse saga has never really been about increasing physical scale. It's been about increasing emotional scale. Instead of asking heroes to save their own world, it's asking them what they're willing to sacrifice when every world is dying at once. That's exactly what made Hickman's Secret Wars resonate with readers. The story wasn't memorable because realities collided. It was memorable because characters were forced to confront impossible choices after those collisions happened. Battleworld isn't exciting because it's visually strange. It's exciting because every single person standing on that planet has already lost. They've survived the apocalypse. They're living inside the consequences instead of trying to prevent them. If Marvel successfully translates that idea onto the big screen, Secret Wars won't simply feel like another crossover event. It will feel like the MCU rebuilding itself from the ashes of everything audiences have known for nearly 2 decades. That rebuilding process is also why leaving major characters out of Doomsday may actually strengthen Secret Wars. Fans naturally want every hero to appear in every Avengers movie, but storytelling doesn't always benefit from maximum attendance. Sometimes absence creates anticipation. Imagine arriving on Battleworld and discovering that Spider-Man has been surviving there under completely different circumstances than the rest of the heroes. Imagine Bruce Banner emerging after facing challenges we've never seen. Imagine characters from entirely different universes crossing paths for the first time, not during a brief portal entrance, but after spending weeks or months trapped inside this broken reality. Those kinds of reunions carry emotional weight precisely because the characters weren't standing beside each other throughout the previous film. Marvel has an opportunity to let every reunion feel earned rather than routine. Instead of treating Secret Wars as simply another team-up, they can present it as the moment when scattered survivors finally find one another again. And that opens the door to some of the most exciting character combinations Marvel has ever had available. For years, comic readers have imagined matchups that the movies never had room to explore. Spider-Man fighting alongside heroes from universes he never knew existed. Savage Hulk unleashed without the limitations of ordinary civilization. Mutants sharing the battlefield with Avengers as though they've always belonged together. The Fantastic Four operating in a world ruled by Doctor Doom rather than merely confronting him on Earth. These aren't just cool action scenes waiting to happen. They're interactions that only become possible because Battleworld erases the normal rules of continuity. On a planet built from fragments of countless realities, anyone can cross paths with anyone else, and every encounter carries the weight of entire universes behind it. That's why fans continue bringing up possibilities like Wolverine versus Hulk. It's not simply because people want to watch two icons punch each other. It's because Battleworld is one of the few settings where those legendary confrontations can happen naturally without feeling forced. A world assembled from broken timelines gives Marvel creative freedom unlike anything they've had before. When you step back one final time, something remarkable starts to emerge from what originally looked like a tiny, almost insignificant post-credit scene. Marvel didn't end Time Spider-Man Brand New Day by answering questions. They ended it by quietly redefining the timeline of the multiverse saga. Instead of saying, here's what happens next, they may have said, here's what's left after everything goes wrong. That's a much bolder promise. It tells audiences that Spider-Man's next truly important chapter isn't about protecting New York. It isn't even about saving Earth. It's about surviving the end of the multiverse itself. And if that interpretation is correct, then the lonely red dot floating in the darkness wasn't pointing toward emptiness at all. It was pointing toward the beginning of the greatest Marvel story still waiting to unfold. Once you see the post-credits scene through that lens, another detail becomes impossible to ignore. Marvel intentionally chose not to show Battleworld itself. At first, that almost feels strange. If the goal was to excite audiences, why not reveal the planet? Why not give us a quick shot of Doom's castle towering over a world stitched together from broken realities? Why not let fans immediately recognize where Peter has ended up? The answer is surprisingly simple. Showing Battleworld would instantly reveal too much. The entire emotional impact of Avengers Doomsday depends on audiences believing that Earth's heroes still have a chance to stop the collapse. If Marvel openly showed Battleworld before Doomsday even releases, they would essentially be confirming that Doctor Doom succeeds. The mystery would disappear overnight. Instead, they chose the smarter approach. They showed the consequence without revealing the cause. They showed the destination without showing the road that leads there. That single creative decision preserves the biggest surprises in tow for Doomsday, while still rewarding fans who understand the larger comic mythology. It's exactly the kind of restrained storytelling Marvel has relied on during its biggest saga-ending events. Sometimes what's hidden is far more powerful than what's shown. And if Doctor Doom truly reaches the end of Doomsday as the victor, that would immediately separate him from every major villain the MCU has introduced before. Loki failed. Ultron failed. Thanos technically won for a short period, but even his victory lasted only until the Avengers discovered time travel and reversed everything. Doom is different because his greatest comic stories have never been about destroying reality for the sake of destruction. They're about replacing reality with something he genuinely believes is better. That's what makes him so dangerous. In his own mind, Doom isn't the villain. He's the only person capable of saving existence after everyone else has failed. If Doomsday ends with the multiverse collapsing into Battleworld, then Doom doesn't simply conquer the universe. He becomes its architect. Every surviving hero wakes up inside a reality built according to Doom's vision instead of their own. Imagine how psychologically devastating that would be. The Avengers wouldn't just lose a battle, they would lose the world itself. Every familiar location, every government, every city, every piece of history they've ever known would be gone, replaced by a world where Doom decides what is true and what is remembered. That's a level of victory no MCU villain has ever achieved. That also makes Spider-Man's role even more interesting. Peter Parker has always represented ordinary people inside extraordinary situations. Unlike gods, billionaires, or super soldiers, Peter is just a young man constantly trying to do the right thing despite impossible odds. That's exactly why audiences connect with him. Now place that same character into Battleworld. He wouldn't arrive with political influence or military power. He wouldn't command armies or rule kingdoms. He would simply be another survivor trying to understand why reality suddenly looks nothing like the one he sacrificed everything to protect. Ironically, That may become his greatest strength. Heroes like Doctor Strange, Reed Richards, or even Doom himself naturally think on a cosmic scale. Peter doesn't. He focuses on individuals. He asks who needs help first. He worries about the people standing directly in front of him. And in stories where entire universes are collapsing, that perspective often becomes the moral compass everyone else desperately needs. Marvel has repeatedly shown that the smallest acts of compassion can reshape the biggest conflicts. Steve Rogers refusing to sacrifice Vision. Tony Stark choosing to protect one child before thinking about destiny. Peter giving up his identity to save strangers he'll never meet again. Those moments define heroes far more than winning fights. Battleworld could become the perfect place to remind audiences why Spider-Man has always been the emotional heart of Marvel. There's another fascinating possibility hidden inside all of this. Battleworld isn't simply populated by survivors from Earth 616. Depending on how closely Marvel follows Hickman's story, it could become home to countless variants from realities we've never fully explored. That creates opportunities unlike anything the MCU has attempted before. Imagine Peter encountering heroes who remember completely different versions of him. Imagine meeting people who know Spider-Man but have never heard the name Peter Parker. Imagine variants of friends, allies, and even enemies whose histories unfolded in completely different ways. After No Way Home, Peter lost everyone who remembered his identity. Battleworld could become the place where he unexpectedly finds people who remember versions of him from entirely different universes. They wouldn't be his friends. They wouldn't share his memories. But they would recognize the symbol he carries. That creates an emotional dynamic far more interesting than simple nostalgia. Peter would constantly be reminded of relationships that almost existed but never belonged to his own life. It's a bittersweet idea that fits perfectly with the emotional direction Marvel has been taking his character. And then there's the spectacle. Marvel has made it very clear over the past several years that Secret Wars isn't meant to simply repeat what Avengers Endgame accomplished. The portal sequence in Time's Endgame's Taj has become one of the defining moments in blockbuster cinema. Every surviving hero arriving together to face Thanos created an emotional payoff built across more than a decade of storytelling. Trying to recreate that exact moment would almost certainly feel repetitive. So instead of making the same scene bigger, Marvel appears to be changing the structure entirely. Rather than having every hero arrive at the last second through portals, Battleworld allows them to already exist together inside one fractured reality. This scale becomes fundamentally different. Instead of asking who shows up to help, the question becomes who actually survived. Every alliance feels unpredictable because characters aren't entering the battlefield from their own worlds anymore. They're already living inside the same broken one. That subtle shift changes everything. It turns the climax from a rescue mission into a war for existence itself. That's also why rumors surrounding potential character interactions have become so exciting. Fans have spent years imagining confrontations and partnerships that ordinary continuity could never realistically support. Spider-Man, alongside heroes from completely different universes. Savage Hulk unleashed against opponents powerful enough to challenge him without restraint. The long-discussed Wolverine vs. Hulk battle finally becoming reality after Deadpool and AMP. Wolverine intentionally avoided going in that direction. Battleworld gives Marvel permission to embrace those legendary comic moments, because the entire premise is built around impossible combinations becoming possible. Every corner of the planet can represent a different reality, a different history, a different version of Marvel's past, present, or future. Instead of treating legacy characters as brief cameos, Secret Wars could allow them to exist naturally within the story. That's a much more satisfying use of the multiverse than simply bringing characters back for a few minutes of fan service. When you connect every piece together, the leaked post-credits scene starts feeling less like an isolated teaser and more like the final puzzle piece that suddenly makes the larger picture visible. The retro Spidey tracker isn't important because of the technology itself. The blinking red dot isn't important because it's floating in space. Those are simply visual tools Marvel uses to communicate a much larger idea without saying a single word. Peter Parker has reached a place beyond the world we've been following since Iron Man began the MCU in 2008. Whether Marvel eventually calls it Battleworld or introduces it under another name, the implication remains the same. Reality has fundamentally changed. Earth 616 is no longer the center of the story. The multiverse saga is preparing to leave behind the familiar and step into something entirely new. And maybe that's why this scene has divided audiences so sharply. Modern moviegoers have become conditioned to expect instant gratification from post-credit scenes. We expect a shocking cameo, a famous face, or a loud reveal that immediately trends across social media. This scene doesn't chase that kind of excitement. It asks viewers to think. It rewards people who pay attention to the larger narrative instead of looking for the loudest surprise. That's always going to be more controversial because symbolic storytelling doesn't generate instant applause. It generates discussion. And sometimes discussion is exactly what Marvel wants. After all, the multiverse saga has always been about assembling a puzzle whose full picture only becomes visible when every piece is finally in place. So while many people are calling this one of Marvel's weakest post-credit scenes, I honestly think history may end up remembering it very differently. If Avengers Doomsday truly ends with Doctor Doom reshaping reality, if Secret Wars really unfolds on Battleworld, if Spider-Man's biggest chapter is still waiting beyond the fall of the multiverse, then this tiny scene wasn't disappointing at all. It was Marvel quietly showing us the future without revealing the journey. And sometimes the smallest clue carries the biggest consequence. By the time Spider-Man Brand New Day * officially reaches theaters, we'll finally be able to see whether this leaked scene plays out exactly as described. But based on everything we know today, from Hickman's * Secret Wars, to the direction of the multiverse saga, to the production realities surrounding Avengers Doomsday, this interpretation fits together remarkably well. What first looked like a random blinking red dot may actually be Marvel's cleverest piece of long-term storytelling yet, hinting that Spider-Man isn't missing from the MCU's biggest battle. He's simply waiting at the place where the next one truly begins. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more deep dives into the biggest Marvel theories, hidden details, and cinematic connections, don't forget to like the video, share it with other Marvel fans, and subscribe to * Filmcast. And if you really enjoyed today's video and want to help support the channel, you can also show your support with a * $25 super thanks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.